Okay, just hang on a second.
You've got to log in.
Well, there is that, right?
We're live?
We are live.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our September 14th edition of the council meeting for the City of Winkler. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of September 14th, 2021 be adopted. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
A seconder?
Marvin?
Thank you. Any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting for August the 24th, 2021 be adopted. Do we have a mover?
Don.
Thank you, Don. Seconder?
Karina.
Any questions regarding the minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. The next item in correspondence, we have a letter from the Winkler Family Resource Center, a newsletter for September-October, just for your information. It's always appreciated when we get some updates from the organizations that we support.
And it's wonderful to see the great service they do for the people in our community. Lots of kids' activities and so on. It's great.
Yeah, we have many of those organizations, and this is one of them, and a great job is right. Moving on to finance then, be it resolved that the accounts payable in the amount of $1.484,372.56 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
And a seconder.
Andrew?
Attached, we find the check register. Are there any questions in regards to the checks that are issued? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the monthly financial report and monthly statements for July of 2021 be received for information. Mover?
Henry Siemens.
And a seconder?
Andrew?
Thank you. And any questions regarding the financial report that David has submitted? David's not here tonight, but Jody, any exceptions that you're aware of that may be outside of the norm?
Maybe one thing to note is that we had, as of September 1, 93.6% of taxes paid by the deadline. Last year at that time was 86.3%, and this is probably the highest percentage we've seen in the last 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's really good to see.
yeah, really good. Okay, any other questions regarding the report? Any questions regards to the statements themselves? Recap is done fairly well. So therefore, all in favor? And that is carried as well. Next item, be it resolved that the water and sewer report for August 2021 be received for information. Mover?
Andrew?
And a seconder?
Marvin?
Thank you. And any questions from council? Jody's going to give us a bit of a recap, so would appreciate that, Jody. Maybe we'll wait for the question until after you explain all the answers.
Okay, so just one of the things to note on this, and in light of our drought situation and the water conservation measures that we've put in place, I thought it might be nice to highlight a few things here. In this report, you see the blue dotted line. This is for August, so you have days running along the bottom here. And so you can see there's not very many days, but we did have some good precipitation events in August, which has been really helpful. Most of the way that the precipitation helps now is it reduces our water usage because people don't water things as much, and it helped along the Red River. So Morton's catchment area for their reservoir, which is Lake Minnewaska, it's a small catchment area, and the rain didn't do nearly as much to help their situation. But at the Red River, the flows have increased substantially because of the rainfall that we had in August. That doesn't mean we're out of the woods, but certainly there's a lot of help that came from that rain. So the red is actually what you see there is the sewer usage, and it typically follows the precipitation because some people still have water going into their sewer line from their sumps. So you see that. Other than that, I don't think too much to note. If we go to the next page, this has some really interesting stuff. I know it can be a little bit confusing, but the solid blue line that you see here is the total water usage in 2021, and then the blue dotted line around it is last year's usage. So about the second week of July, you can see just before that there was a bit of a spike in usage, and after that it's really come down. And when you compare it to last year, we're still trending down in a really healthy pattern, which means that our residents are adhering to the water conservation measures that we've put in place. I think they've done a great job of conserving water, and it's extremely noticeable when we take a look at our water usage. The black solid line here is the cumulative water that we've purchased from PVWC year to date. And so you can see that right here in August, it's really trending up over last year. In the end, it will end at a very similar point, but there was a concerted effort to increase the amount of water we would take from PVWC to conserve the amount of water that we're drawing in the aquifer. Again, the reasoning for that was if Morden should find themselves in a really difficult spot next year, or others in the region, we would be better able to help our neighbors with some water supply. So you can see that there. And then the green line there is, the black was year to date, so the green is the active water coming from PVWC. And again, the dotted line is the previous year, so you see the same trend, is that we're starting to take more water from PVWC than we have in previous years at this time, for the reasons that I just mentioned. And so we continue to have regular calls with our partners in the region, led by PVWC, and that's so that we're all on the same page. Today, I think Michael and Marvin were both on the call, and I think all of the municipalities agreed that we should continue with our conservation efforts because we're not out of the woods here yet, but really good indications on this report.
Thanks, Jody.
And how's the rain barrel program going?
The rain barrel program is excellent. We've been getting shipments as the manufacturer is able to complete them, and they sell out in no time. And so that is the same experience that Morden has had and Arm of Stanley. As soon as they are made available, they sell pretty quick.
Great.
And so that, of course, each municipality is sponsoring 50% of the cost. And so residents are getting a really good rain barrel for $130, which is bigger than most of the barrels that you can buy in a retail location.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Any other councillors have any questions? All right, hearing none. All in favor of that report? And that is carried.
Martin, I'll ask to be excused based on a perceived
Okay.
conflict of interest.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. This is the first reading, so be it resolved that bylaw number 2270-21 be given first reading. Mover,
Henry Siemens.
seconder,
Don Fair?
and have you taken a look at the request for institutional subdivision or rezoning? Any questions regarding that? Hearing none. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will recess our regular council meeting, and I think we have to wait about another 5 minutes. And then we will proceed with the public hearings that are on our agenda. Council meeting is recessed.
Martin, I believe there is actually a resolution there for
Oh.
going into public hearings.
Just a second, maybe, better go there.
Right.
Be it resolved that this meeting of council recessed for the purpose of holding public hearings. Thank you. Mover?
Marvin?
Done.
Okay, Marvin and Don, thank you. All in favor? Carried.
4 minutes left.
Ready, Wendy?
Okay, we have 4 public hearings today, so I'm going to introduce each public hearing and provide any additional information to council. After that, Mayor Harder will ask if there's anyone here to address council regarding the hearing. The mayor has the right to limit time to 10 minutes per person, after which council may wish to ask questions. When you speak, we ask that you come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and then you may speak to the matter. All questions or comments from the public must be directed to the mayor from the podium. After all registrants have been heard, the public hearing will be closed. Council will then vote on the motion in regard to the application. First up, we have conditional use number 1695-21. The applicant is Jonathan Peters on behalf of owner 3490051 Manitoba Limited, premises at 555 Circle K Drive. And this request is in order to allow the construction of a third principal building. Public hearing notices were sent out as per the requirements in the Act, and we have not received any objections to this application. And the group has been advised by city planning of any of the requirements, and I think that was all agreed to. There are some additional notes to council in the shared notes.
So is there anybody here to object to this conditional use? Council, do you have any questions in regards to this application?
I guess just one quick question maybe is the proponent here as well.
Yes.
The recommendations that have been presented to you, you're aware of each one of them and are comfortable with them?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, I have been made aware of them. I guess the question is, because the part of it was if local improvement was used to put Circle K through.
Correct.
And we'd be responsible for the frontage of that portion, our portion of that frontage. And I think there's a percentage and there's a calculation. I haven't received all that from Steph yet. The question I did have was, I believe there was a bit of an error where when the lots were initially sold, there should have been some of that included at that point. That's my understanding from the history of it. The other thing that I did ask Steph, and I haven't gotten clarification on, is because water and sewer is included in that. But I believe that even though our 445 Cargill would border Circle K, those services are already through from Cargill Road.
I believe so, yeah.
My question to her was, if we're paying, are we paying for water and sewer for 445 Cargill as well as 555 Circle K? Because only one of them is actually serviced from Circle K Drive.
And I think those questions would be best dealt with our staff.
Yep.
And Stephanie can certainly answer the vast majority of them, and if you have some additional concern, she'll loop in the people that need to speak to it.
Yeah.
I think the biggest concern that we have here is the recommendation here today on this piece is that you be aware of the fact that likely in the next year or so, we're going to be looking at as a local improvement to push Circle K through.
Yep.
And that was something that you were aware of and comfortable with.
Yep, I was made aware of that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
Super.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yes, thank you.
All right, if there are no other comments, be it resolved that council approve conditional use number 1695.
You gotta close it first.
Close the hearing.
Oops, sorry, do that one first, go back. Be it resolved that public hearing for conditional use application 1695-21 be closed. Thank you. Mover,
Marvin?
seconder,
Michael?
Oh, you all can have it.
I'll give it to Karina.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, then going on, be it resolved that council approve conditional use number 1695-21, subject to the owners not objecting to local improvement for the construction of the road, water, and sewer in the Circle K Drive right-of-way in the future. Mover?
Henry Stevens?
Okay, Henry Siemens and Michael? Get you this time.
All right.
All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, next one, Jody?
Next public hearing is for variation application number 1697-21. Applicant is Eugene Wiebe on behalf of owners Eugene and Patricia Wiebe for the address located at 6-575 Townsend Drive. The reason for the request is to construct a third attached garage in the side yard. Zoning bylaw requirements are for a 5-foot side yard setback and a 2-foot eaves projection setback. The variation requested is for 3 feet side yard setback and a 1-foot eaves projection setback. Again, public hearing notices were sent out as per the requirements in the Act, and we have not received any objections to this application.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Any questions regarding this application?
I'll ask the same question again. There's a number of conditions that MSTW has suggested in terms of what should be there. Jean, you're aware of each one of those? Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
perfect, appreciate it. All right, if there's no further comments, be it resolved that the public hearing for variation application 169721 be closed. Mover,
Karina.
seconder,
Andrew?
thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Be it resolved that council approve variation number 169721, subject to MSCW's building requirements. Mover,
Henry Siemens?
seconder,
Don?
thank you, Don. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Jody, next one.
Next public hearing is for conditional use, number 1698-21. Applicant is Platinum Valley Homes on behalf of owners Tremaine and Dana Wall, located at 535 Embassy Drive. The request is in order to allow the construction of condominiums as a planned unit development in the MG zone. There are again hearing notices that were sent out, and we have not received any objections to this application. And there are some further notes to council in your package with the recommendation from the planning committee that if there are no major objections received from abutting property owners, it is recommended that the conditional use be approved, subject to each owner obtaining appropriate occupancy permits from MSTW. Those relate to some long-standing comments from regional community planning on micro-industrial parks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody here to voice opposition to that one? Hearing none, be it resolved that the public hearing for conditional use application 169821 be closed. Mover,
Marvin?
seconder,
Andrew?
thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that council approve conditional use number 169821, subject to each owner obtaining occupancy permits. Mover
Henry Siemens?
and a seconder.
Don?
All in favor? And that is carried. Next one, Jody?
Last one is public hearing for variation application number 1700-21. Applicant is Grandeur Housing on behalf of owners Four Seasons Potato Limited. Reason is to construct an additional office space closer to their loading ramp at 115 Market Street. Here, the zoning bylaw requirements are for a 10-foot separation between principal building and accessory building. Variation requested is for a 2.43-foot building separation. Public hearing notices were sent out according to the Act, and we did not receive any objections. There was one inquiry from Meridian, and their question was answered satisfactorily to them. MSTW has also reviewed the plans. They're working with Manitoba Hydro directly for electrical approvals. And other than that, the recommendation is, again, if there are no major objections from abutting property owners, it's recommended that the application be approved with no special conditions.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Anybody here in opposition to that application? Hearing none, be it resolved that the public hearing for variation application 1700-21 be closed. Mover,
Michael?
seconder,
Karina.
thank you. Any other questions? None? All in favor? That's carried.
Pete, you get a new office or what? Nice.
Both
That's one
time,
big
eh?
office.
Be it resolved that council approve variation number 1700-21. Mover,
Henry Siemens?
seconder,
Don?
all in favor? And that is carried.
Sorry, now you're getting a new office.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the public hearings be adjourned and regular council meeting reconvened. Mover,
Karina.
Marvin?
okay, Karina and Marvin, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a presentation by Things That Matter. And
See you guys.
See ya, thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you for
Yep,
coming.
thanks a lot, guys.
Good night.
and we can ask them to come in. You'll go through the process.
Yep.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'll just go through some of the information regarding delegations. Delegations, like public hearings, may be limited to 10-minute presentations. This group was informed of that time limit and did not request additional time. So at the end of the presentation, council may ask you as a delegation questions for clarification or for more information. At that time, the delegation may no longer participate in the meeting after the questions are done. So I think whenever you are ready, you guys can introduce yourself.
Can I take my mask off when I'm talking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can take it off while you're at the mic.
I'm talking, okay. Appreciate the council letting us come and present to you. You said to introduce ourselves. My name is Joshua Shetter, pastor of Redeeming Grace Bible Church. We meet in Morden, but I live here in Winkler, and this is Carl Krebs. The question we have facing us is, during this COVID era, is what do we do when the government has stepped out of bounds? What can we do? Where do we go? Who do we turn to? We believe that biblical precedence and history gives us the answer, and that is the lesser magistrate. We know that the government has gone astray because they are given very clear bounds in Romans 13. They are to punish evil and praise or approve the good. And it says that their authority is given by God in that same passage. And so our provincial government has instead approved of evil and punished good. They have done this by closing churches, isolating people against their will, promoting the vaccine mandate at the expense of people's livelihoods, proposing vaccinating children without parental consent, and forbidding families from gathering. Especially in the area of restricting and outlawing church, our government has acted in direct opposition to the authority above them, God, the one by whom it receives its authority. God has clearly willed that his church gather together regularly in person, and the government has shown that it has no respect for God's will for the church. And while at the moment we as churches can meet together, there is no lockdown, but we know that the government finds easy reason to go into another one, as they have in the past. Our government has run afoul of the basic foundational law of the land, namely the Constitution. According to the Charter, we are guaranteed the freedoms of religion, assembly, conscience, and association. And the public health orders have not only clearly violated all of these, but could almost be thought to have been written expressly to deny them. Granted, the Charter says these rights can be set aside if there is a justifiable reason, but now we are back to a form of our original question. What do we do if we do not agree with the government's justification? COVID is a very serious matter, but it does not necessitate ignoring our charter rights, and it does not warrant a rejection of God's word. There surely is a way to fight COVID without compromising in these ways. So we are asking you, as the lesser authority, to stand up to the greater authority and say, as long as your mandates go against God and against the Constitution, we will not have them here. We ask because we wish to submit to authority that is acting lawfully, and we wish to resist authority that is acting unlawfully. In other words, we want to lawfully resist unlawful authority. So you may say, what about the courts? There's the court system. That's what it's for. And we agree with you. There is a case now before the Queen's Bench that would answer a lot of these questions, but that is a slow process, and your people are hurting now. Some of you may have friends or family that have told you that they are hurting now. So we will use every lawful means at our disposal to resist these unlawful measures, so we and the people we represent get relief sooner rather than later. Finally, the most dangerous idea behind the government's approach to COVID is that they, or the government, is the source of our rights, or the giver of our rights. This is a deadly lie. Our rights do not come from the government. Our rights come from God. God is the source. God made man stamped with his image. As such, man has inherent dignity and worth, which is reflected in the Charter. Our freedoms are rooted in our creation. The government is just the protector or the trustee of those rights by the consent of the governed, of the people. So if the government sees itself as the source of our rights, they can remove them at any time and for any pretense whatsoever. They can say, we're doing this for your safety, we're doing it for your health, we're doing it for your freedom, while doing the opposite of giving us freedom. We're doing it for your good. And so we as the people must stand up to them and say, no, our rights come from your boss, God, and are enshrined in our Constitution. You have no grounds to cancel them. And so you, as the Winkler City Council, have the opportunity to take that stand, at least on the local level. And you may say, well, this is without precedence, or this is illegal. And you're right, this is without precedence in the COVID era. But this has been done in other times. You may have heard of the Toronto City Council declaring itself a sanctuary city for illegal immigrants. And in the state of Texas, where I'm from, the city of Lubbock, which has over 200,000 people, they declared themselves a sanctuary city for the unborn. And as you know, in the states, abortion is legal federally. But they said within the city limits of Lubbock, their abortion will be declared illegal. And actually that was done by a vote from the people. They put it on the ballot, and then the people voted and passed it at 67%. So we have an opportunity here to make Winkler a sanctuary city. Our rights will not be trampled on in this city. And you will shine a light that other cities could gather around and say, we'll do that too. Not in a shake our fist in the government's faces, but let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this. Let's not all just act like we all agree. There are some contrary opinions. There must be ways to fight COVID and preserve our constitutional rights. There must be ways to fight COVID and preserve God's law, and allowing churches to meet, and allowing families to get together, and be able to sit by the bedside of your elderly grandmother and as she dies or as she is sick, if she wants people near her. We have the opportunity to stand for people. If it's okay, Carl can say a few words.
Sure, we still have time.
I'll try to stay within the minutes, but if I run over, you'll let me know, I think. I want to read a statement here. I don't have all the answers. I always say that. I have more questions than answers, and I go to people that I think can contribute. And I want to read this. I don't normally read anything, but I want to read this if you'll bear with me. Hebrews 12:1 tells us, we must run with endurance the race that is God sets before us. If we build it, they will come. And when they come, don't disappoint them. Don't disappoint them by changing the rules in the process. Harry Enns, a provincial agriculture minister, once said governments should look after helping local people develop their infrastructure and then get out of the way. Henry F. Weeb, mayor of Winkler from 1966 to 1993, started the town of Winkler on its industrious development by the town providing the land and help with infrastructure, but said, don't let the land developers get rich. Pass on the savings to the business owners. Build it, and they will come. Zig Fall, who's still in business today, when unveiling his third pharmacy in Winkler, honoring the Winkler leader of the past, said, he is someone who has worked, he was honoring Winkler, H.F. Weeb, and he said he was someone who worked diligently to bring in his day more industry into this community, which gave us a broader footprint and in some ways mimics what we're trying to do, carry a broader footprint of care. Since 1998, Regional Connections Immigrant Services has welcomed over 15,000 newcomers to this area. A decade ago, there were newcomers from 10 countries accessing services at Regional Connections. Today, the organization has welcomed clients from over 130 countries. 130 in a population of this size. As a result, one of the priorities of the past 5 years is to address the increasingly diverse nature of our communities. So do you see what we mean when they come? Don't disappoint them by changing the rules in the process. Just 1 second, I get dry. Don't disappoint them by changing the rules in process. Yet if we allow the current governments to bully us and our fellow citizens with fear, creating havoc in businesses, churches, schools, families, and everything else, we will quickly lose what our forefathers started when tasting newfound freedom. In Frank Brown's History in the town of Winkler, on June 3rd, 1875, a man named Johann Wiebe, together with many brethren, sisters, children, as well as some weak and maimed, boarded a boat to escape from Russian military service and worldly power. We are looking forward to the freedom, he said, of worship, which has been promised to us in America, so that we again may serve God according to the teachings of the apostles. A columnist wrote this a little while ago. Whatever you're facing right now, know this: there is a way to turn your pain into possibility. Go the distance, ease someone's pain, share your talents no matter what circumstances. Truly, if you build it, they will come. Just a few personal remarks, if I'm still okay with time.
Yep.
Okay. In returning to Winkler in 2019, I observed the expanse of the city. And Mary Harder, you were one of the first people I came to see, and we had a really good conversation in your office, and you identified the body and the soul and the spirit of this community as being well and in good shape, and the reason why we were such a successful city. Couldn't agree with you more on that. That isn't what it is today. But last night at a house, a lady comes to my house late at night with a handful of these petitions, which you see here. And she just wanted to make sure that her voice would count. Today, one person drives up to my house with one petition. These people are looking for council to do something for them. I had a conversation with a major land developer, and he was asked, because he builds all over, he says, what is the magic of Winkler? It's the community. It's the people. It's the fact that I can walk down the street, you can walk down the street at night and you see an approaching shadowy figure. You don't have to be as concerned as you would be in other cities. I've lived in other cities. You can leave things in your backyard. You can leave your door unlocked. I don't advise it, but you can. People leave things for sale on their porch, and other people come and put money in a jar, and it's all good. That's the community of Winkler. That is the magic of Winkler. And the further magic of what's brought us this far is the good deposit of an ingenuity and a determination to do for ourselves what we know we can do for ourselves. The government is in the way of that right now. And we know we are asking boldly. But there are other men that have asked things boldly. This council is being asked to stretch further than it has ever gone before, well outside the lines and the lane of travel. But are we not in desperate times? Have we not been pushed so far that the breaking point where businesses now are on that threshold of falling apart? I met with a business owner today. He says now his patio is closed just because. And the officer who addressed it said, it's rather ambiguous, but let's just shut it down. So now you can't have your open air patio working for you. The build it and they will come thing comes from a movie in 1988, and I'll be brief on this. I'm not here to entertain you, but it's Field of Dreams. And in that movie, an individual who owns a large cornfield and has a passionate desire to see baseball played the way it once was played, here's the voice: build it, and they will come. Today we're asking that we go back to our roots. If we could turn back the clock to 18 months, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be sitting here with our masks on. This city is one of the greatest cities I've ever had the pleasure to live in. And this will be my home city. No more will I be anywhere else. I love this city. So here it comes to you. And here's my challenge to myself. The voice of cowardice will always ask, is it safe? The voice of expediency will say, is it politics that we're concerned about? Vanity will come along and say, am I going to be popular? How many likes will I get on Facebook? But there is still that small voice. It's the voice of conscience that says, is it right? This is that time where we must make a decision, not because it is safe, not because it is expedient, not because it is popular, but we must make this decision because it is right. And it is my belief that this council will be adopted as the Council of Canada for doing the right thing, the tough thing. It is tough. We're all in an awful position right now. So I say, be bold, council. This city will stand with you. But this has to be yours. It's not ours. We want nothing of it. We simply went to the people, and the people spoke. And now they're asking for council to do for them what they can't do for themselves. Final point. If this isn't right, then if it's not now, then when? If this isn't right, then what is? And if it's not going to be you, then who? Respectfully submitted to you for your consideration.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, Jody,
Okay,
go through the process.
Sure. Yeah, I can, just to provide information to council, I met with the Things That Matter group prior to their application to appear as a delegation, just to help them understand the process of coming to council and presenting as a delegation. That was a good and respectful conversation. I do thank you for that. Then they made the application, and they submitted their presentation, which was submitted to you as council and included in your council packages for your review. In addition to that, on behalf of council, we sought legal advice as well, which was also provided.
Okay, and Scott Hepner is our legal advisor. Give him an opportunity.
First, let me just say thank you to council for having me out today to speak before you. I can confirm that I have been provided with a copy of the proposal. I have given it due consideration, and I can also advise that in considering it, I've provided advice to City Council regarding the proposal as well, so that then when they consider it, they're able to do so in a due and proper fashion.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So the normal procedure is that the resolutions are all being worded in a positive. Councillor Paulette, I believe you were the one that's going to read the resolution?
Sure, I can read the resolution.
Or Jody, were you going to read the resolution?
Up to you.
That's fine, I can read it.
Okay,
Okay, as you know, a resolution can't, or a matter can't be debated till the resolution is on the floor. So for the purpose of bringing it onto the floor, the proposed resolution, I think as we received from the group That Matter, is whereas the City of Winkler received a proposal and presentation from the Things That Matter seeking a declaration that the City of Winkler be declared a sanctuary city, and whereas the intent of the declaration for a sanctuary city is that any public health order issued by the Manitoba provincial government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic be considered null and void within the municipal limits of the City of Winkler and shall not be enforced by the City of Winkler. Be it therefore resolved that the City of Winkler be declared a sanctuary city. So I so move to get it onto the floor.
and do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Mayor, may I just point of clarification?
Okay.
The resolution that was read here is not the one that was submitted by the group. It is an abbreviated version of it.
Okay, thank you.
I guess the question that I would have to you then, does that properly represent your request?
One change in the wording there, you said any health order. In our submission, we said any health order that includes the following, and then we had a list of things. So it's not any health order, just one that would include those things.
Yeah, ours states public health order issued by the Manitoba provincial government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mhm. And then that would include the following, and then we listed vaccine mandate and closure of churches.
Right, and those would all be included in the public health order.
Okay,
Yeah.
you were just saying if they issued one that didn't include those, we'd be fine with it.
Yeah, the way the resolution is written is that any public health order issued by the provincial
Oh,
government.
having
Yeah.
been issued, gotcha.
Okay, thank you, that's okay? All right, thank you. So, in normal procedure would be the individual who made the motion has the opportunity to respond first, so I will ask Councillor Plett to share his comments in regards to the motion and where he's at.
Okay, I want to thank the presenters, both of you, for the presentation. And I value the fact that in Winkler, as in the rest of Canada, we encourage our citizens to be involved in civic life. It encourages people to contribute their views and their values in a peaceful way. It is a way for people with different religious views, political views, family aspirations to have input. This resolution is in response to actions taken by our federal and provincial governments in their effort to address the health concerns as a result of the effects of the worldwide coronavirus pandemic. Our country is built on the concept that there is a federal government with elected representatives from each region to govern on issues of national importance. The federal government further delegates responsibilities like health and education, for instance, to the provinces. And the provinces act under the federal authority. The provincial government further delegates responsibilities such as local infrastructure and development to municipalities. I understand that each of the provincial governments and local governments serve under the auspices of the next higher level of government and is responsible to make decisions based on the laws set out by that level of government. Our provincial and federal governments, as have other governments across the whole world, have been tasked with an extremely difficult decisions in the last 18 months. They have sought advice and made decisions that they believe are in the best interest of our citizens. They made decisions knowing they would not always be popular, but that is their mandate. I love Winkler, as you indicated. That is why I offered myself and my services, not only as a firefighter for the last 30-some years, but also as a counselor. When I was sworn in as a counselor, I promised to make decisions, lawful decisions, in the best interest of Winkler citizens. I have personal opinions on this, as well as many other decisions council deliberates, which form part of my decision-making process. And that's why we have more than one person on council. And I promise to be impartial. I listen to the views of our citizens and fellow councillors and actively research in order to make informed decisions for the safety and well-being of each of our citizens. Winkler City Council receives many presentations over the course of time and has options ranging from simply receiving for information or bringing the topic to committee and staff for more information, and all the way up to council making recommendations or a decision at the same meeting, which we're doing tonight. I believe this resolution is asking the city to pass a resolution that is, one, outside of our scope of authority, and Premier Gertsen invited people to come to the province to make their case about health matters. And secondly, that it is contrary to the provincial current guidelines. I believe that if we pass this resolution, we open ourselves up to legal challenge and would have little chance of defending it successfully. If we did pass this resolution, the province has the power to step in and take control, and has done so in the past when they believed that our council was dysfunctional or acting unlawfully. And I believe your elected council is in a better position to make decisions for our citizens, and that is our mandate. So for these two reasons and more, I cite for the record why I will vote in opposition to this resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Marvin. Michael?
I want to thank our presenters for their time this evening. Carl touched on something that I've been thinking about, and it's one of the lessons I recall being taught as a child, and I do my best to instill in my kids as well. And that's do the right thing, even when it's not the easy thing. And it's apparent that there's residents in our community and many other communities that believe this concept is the right thing. I respect those opinions, even though I do not agree with them. I wholeheartedly believe if I was to support this idea, I would be failing to uphold my oath and obligation as an elected city official. I believe a sanctuary city would result in removal of council by provincial authorities, leaving the city to be run by provincial appointees with no stake in the city's long-term well-being. Additionally, in my opinion, this concept would lead to an exodus of residents and businesses, from medical professionals to law enforcement, stores, restaurants, factories, and their employees, as they seek new opportunities in less tumultuous communities. Furthermore, we would likely see government funding disappear, affecting roads, water, police and fire protection, education, and much more. This could leave Winkler to resemble the Wild West in a classic John Wayne movie until we become a ghost town. For those reasons, I believe the right thing to do for the taxpayers and residents of Winkler is to deny this request, and I will not support the motion to make Winkler a sanctuary city.
Thank you, Michael. Don?
All right, I'd like to echo the same comments as Mr. Plett and Mr. Grenier. I want to thank you for the presentation. I believe it is very important as a leader in this community to listen to everyone's concerns that affects all our lives. In the past months, I've listened to many, many people who have come to my place of business who have had concerns and, getting to the point where they are tears in their eyes, and I feel my heart breaks for them. And you hear the stories of families that are not talking to each other, and the divisiveness is unbelievable. And it's not just the virus; it's just the divisiveness in the families, the friends, co-workers, and churches, and families breaking up because one's vaxxed, one's unvaxxed. And it's just sad to see that there's such a split. And also sad to see that people going into businesses yelling at very young employees who have nothing to do with any kind of government control getting yelled at. It's just totally unacceptable. And not everybody's like that, but whoever does, it just sets a tone for the whole thing. On a spiritual point, my prayer is that we turn to, or who do we turn to when we leave here? And where will we all find peace? I want everyone to think about that there are people inside and outside the community who are watching to see how we, who are supposed to emulate the life of Christ, deal with global pandemic. So with that in mind, we can't not lose this opportunity to be a light in a darkened world. With what has been said from the last two counselors, I have been praying fervently, and I cannot be part of this presentation.
Thank you, Don. Andrew?
Thank you for sharing there, gentlemen. Marvin, we all knew you would be very prepared. Don, you're correct. The divisiveness is extremely sad. It's very sad. Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentation. Carl, you mentioned you don't have answers. You have questions. I don't have answers either. I am not a health expert. I rely on my doctor for medical advice. Without a doctor, my son's body would be buried in the ground, and I will always thank my doctor for that, because I have a child because of that. Our local healthcare board, I think it was mentioned in the presentation as well, our local healthcare board has worked hard to bring doctors and more services into this community. It would be devastating to lose them. They are a vital asset to this community. Like I said, we can't afford to lose our medical people. And some of them are thinking about leaving. On either side of this, it's very sad. And then the Municipal Act, as mentioned before, Municipal Act Item 230 states that a bylaw that is inconsistent with an act or regulation in force in the province is of no effect to the extent of an inconsistency. So if we enact this bylaw as presented, the province, as Marvin said that, the province will step in. The people are what makes this place great. You said that, Carl, and you're right. The people make this place great. But I fear that if we go through with what you're saying, the province could take control of this place, which I do not agree with. And therefore, I will vote in opposition of this motion.
Karina? Thanks, Andrew.
So first of all, thank you guys for presenting, and thank you for putting in the effort. I think that it's good to hear people's perspectives, and it's good to hear people's hearts. And I think that with that comes responsibility. The last year and a half has not been easy on anybody. I believe everyone has been frustrated at one point or another. It's not been easy. My heart has hurt for so many people in our community, not only our community, in the world, but yeah. Words have power. Power to build up and power to tear down. We all carry the responsibility of what we say, whether that is in person or online. When I think about this, I want to do what I can to build people up. I want to do what I can to bring people together. I want to be remembered as someone who brought people together, not apart. I want to be clear about how I respond to your request. I could take many detours and I could complain, or I could talk about all the frustration points and all the frustration points I've heard from other community members, but I won't. I'll keep it simple. I just want to touch on the consequences that would fall on our community. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. And unfortunately, too many people in our community, business owners, healthcare professionals, and so on, are carrying the consequences of the decisions being made by those who are defying the public health orders. I understand that there is frustration, but please take into consideration the consequences that are not necessarily yours to carry, but others as well. Philippians 2:1-4, or Philippians 2:1, or number 4. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. I challenge us to think about those around us. We all know the world is watching. Let them see love and not division. The request is simple. The answer is simple. No, I will not support our city becoming a sanctuary city.
Thank you, Karina. Henry?
As has been mentioned a number of times, Carl, Joshua, thank you for coming here, presenting your concerns. It's not easy to come here and present to us. I hear this regularly from people. I remember the first time I came, before I sat on this side of the table. It's not easy. What you did took bravery, so it obviously was something that you felt passionately about. I'm sad that we have to deal with this. I really am. How did we get here? And truly, I believe it's a group that, out of fear and desperation, has said to council, we need you to listen. You had concerns. Nobody was able to address them in a way that left you feeling heard. Wherever you turned, you felt dismissed, ignored, and now you're turning here for help. You're asking us to do something that we can't do, but you had no other option. I suspect, in all likelihood, you had a pretty good idea that we can't do what you're asking us to do, but you felt you had no further option. It's heartbreaking to me to see people so desperate for information they can trust and not finding it where they believe they should be able to find it to get to this point. I'm disheartened to see the extreme anxiety that this creates in yourselves and in others in our community. You can see it and hear it and feel it in conversations wherever you go. This sense of hopelessness that this will ever end is literally all around us. I implore Manitoba and Canada to honestly engage with those who disagree with the current health mandates. What's been done so far hasn't worked. People just simply don't feel that they're being heard. I ask them to find new ways, different ways, to genuinely listen to the fears being expressed. I also say to those who agree with the mandates to do the same. Show up and listen. And I say all of these comments as somebody who's fully vaccinated. When a vaccine was offered, my first step was to reach out to my family doctor, the same one I trust when myself or any member of my family is sick. That conversation and the associated research led me to decide to get vaccinated. I chose to do so to protect my family, my friends, my coworkers, my neighbors, and my community. There are many people who do not feel that same confidence in the information they have or that they've been able to find. That should be their choice, and that is their choice. Differences of opinion around any given subject are a given. it happens all day, every day. It's normal, and it should be. What's not normal, though, is for those that disagree to vilify each other. That leads us to where we are today. We have two groups of people who disagree, and they both believe that the other is evil. How do we get back together from that? When we have people who toss judgment and condemnation at each other, it's impossible to come back together. We have to find a way to come back together. In a day and age where we all seem to be scared or mad or both, I ask that we take a few minutes to honestly look at our neighbor and try to understand where they're coming from. We're all hanging on and trying to figure this out. The impossible unfairness of all of this isn't going to change if we get angry at those who deal with it differently than we do. As Marvin has already said, each one of us were elected to do the best that we could. We were tasked for every item that was presented to us to do our own research, to dig in as deeply as we could, to be able to show up at a meeting confidently being able to place a vote either for or against the item on the table. I believe I've done that, and I am confident that I'll be able to place a vote not supporting this resolution.
Thank you, Henry. For clarification, I asked every single council member to individually and privately come up with a statement. I said it is incumbent upon us, each one of us, to come up with a statement that we have brought up. It is not a concerted effort. It is not a to try and coerce anybody to say anything. Matter of fact, I haven't seen any of the responses that any of these gentlemen and lady have shared, and I appreciate that because I wanted to hear their hearts. I know the difficulties that you faced. I know the difficulties that we have faced. Hearing ridicule from all directions. I know at the time when I stood up and said, be safe, be fair, open, and be, fought hard for the businesses that are here. And we did get some results because the government ceased and desisted from insisting that what they would determine what was essential and not essential. That disappeared. It disappeared, first of all, when we brought it to their attention in regards to it affected the ma and pa shops the most. Superstores and the Walmarts could still continue to sell everything until the pressure got too great, and what they do, instead of opening up the ma and pa shop that they should have done, they shut down the superstore and decided what was going to be, and Canadian Tire and all the other stores. And they would decide for them what is essential and what is not essential. Honestly, when I review the impact of the last year, it has been devastating to our community. It is not because of what we have done that this community has been devastated. It has been devastated because either the information has changed as we're going along, or they made one rule, and as any rule goes, you have to cover it up with another one, another one, another one. There's no end. And likewise, there would be no end in regards to what we allow or don't allow in a sanctuary city. So it brought me to the point, and I haven't shared this with my council either, so they're at great risk here right now. What does a sanctuary city look like is a question that came to my mind. Other than the legal requirements that we have, just simply what would it look like? The definition of a sanctuary actually refers to a place of protection, peace, free of conflict, a place where we become united as community. I picture a place like the Discovery Nature Sanctuary where the property is protected from people who want to destroy or disrupt the habitat and the wildlife. It's a wonderful idea. Then I thought of the 25 churches that we have in Winkler Plus, and they are called sanctuaries. And they should be a place of sanctuary. So I would have thought that was a safe zone. But that has become a battleground of dissension based on ideologies and differing opinions on how to address the most recent COVID restrictions and protection requests. They're not exempt. So was to be a sanctuary has become a place of conflict and refusal to exercise grace towards others. Every church is dealing with it today. Then I thought, well, okay, home is a sanctuary. But then I find divisions within families. I find brokenness. I find domestic violence. I find separation of families because of difference of opinions. No room for grace either. I observe our counseling centers overwhelmed by caseloads and crisis lines jammed. I see young people locked in despair because they see the behavior of adults not able to work out their differences. And the youth crisis lines are loaded up with calls. Our youth are turning to drugs to ease the pain. And some, unfortunately, can't handle the burdens that are placed upon them, and they decide enough is enough. It's sad. I have a good friend in the city of Winnipeg who is owns some funeral homes. And he says, I have never in my life done as many funerals for drug overdoses and suicide as I have in this last year. It's awful. It is absolutely awful. And I recognize we live in troubled times that needs a community in unity to bring us out of this. Some of the councils have referred to this as well. COVID has revealed how destructive and vicious mankind is capable of becoming. I have said this from the beginning of the pandemic, the devastation of what this world will become will be far greater than the virus. I want to emphatically say that the virus is brutal. It has taken many lives. It has overstretched our healthcare system, and we need to take whatever precaution necessary to deal with this. However, the carnage left behind is haunting us today. This dilemma is not unique to Winkler. This is a worldwide problem. And protests are rising up all over the place. As a city, we have a long history, actually, of successful mayors and councillors. Some of them have already been mentioned. And we are here today to protect our community as much as lies within us to do. I go from H.F. Weeb to John Cron to Neil Schmidt, and I have served this community for 15 years as the mayor. I've served this community for 2 years as a chair of the chamber. Sorry, yeah. I served the city for 5 years as a Harvest Festival director. I know the city well and how the city has grown. And in reality, it has become a sanctuary of sorts to literally thousands, as you've mentioned, Carl, of newcomers. And in the city of Winkler, I realize 130 in the region countries, but I believe our city's numbers are 88 countries from around the globe. Today, I want to say to you that the world is watching. Winkler is the place that we have the ability to dream, the ability to build, the ability to live. And I will add one more thing, that we are a sanctuary that cares for their people, rich or poor, and it doesn't matter from what nation they come. I came to the conclusion today that Winkler cannot be a sanctuary that condones disobedience for the benefit of a few. But this generous, caring people will continue to rise up and be counted as those with a vision and be responsible citizens of our country and our province of Manitoba. So today I ask our city and our community to stand up and be the representatives of the values we all hold dear. That's the conclusion that I and this council have come to regarding the refusal to suggest that declaring a sanctuary city actually does not accomplish the goals for the health of our community and for betterment of our future growth. So for that reason, I will also deny the application for this resolution. So we will formally go through the formal request, and I will ask that if you agree with the resolution, you say aye. If you do not agree, please say nay. Starting with Councillor Platt.
Nay.
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 And nay. thank you for coming. And as you've already heard, this is very difficult. And we have come to the end of our council meeting. And so therefore, I will ask somebody to move that we close our council meeting.
Questions from the media?
Sorry?
Any media?
I don't think questions from the media right now. If there's questions later, we can. Unless you have any online. No? Okay. Do we have a mover?
Karina?
Seconder?
Marvin?
This council meeting is adjourned.
2,500 people.